Greetings and welcome to the Seattle Law of One podcast. Today's episode is about the law of squares. The law of squares, also known as the doubling effect, can be thought of as a metaphysical principle by which the spiritual power of a group or a practice doubles each time a new entity joins the group or each time the practice is performed. What does this mean and how can this help us in our spiritual growth? Let's find out. My name is Jonathan Tong, and I'm facilitator for the Seattle Law of One study group. We can be found in the list of study groups of the L&L Research website shown on your screen. We do also have a Facebook group, and we meet on Zoom twice a week, Tuesdays 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time, Saturdays 8 to 10 a.m. Pacific Time. You don't have to live in Seattle or anywhere near Seattle to join our Facebook group or our Zoom sessions. Anyone who's interested and available is welcome to join. Just contact us at seattlelaw1@gmail.com to get on our mailing list. We send out emails once a week with Zoom links and information on what we'll be talking about that week. We do also have a YouTube channel where we keep recordings of previous podcast episodes, as well as recordings of our monthly Q&As with Jim McCarty. Go to our YouTube channel and hit the subscribe button if you'd like to get notifications when we upload new videos, and contact us at seattlelaw1@gmail.com if you'd like to sit in on any of our Q&A sessions with Jim McCarty. As mentioned, today's topic is the law of squares. Let's go ahead and meet our panelists. Panelists, let our viewers know who you are and where you're calling from, starting with Andy.
Hi, I'm Andy. I'm calling from Southwest England in Cornwall. Thanks for having me here. And I don't know anything. I've only got questions mainly, but thanks for letting me join in.
Always enjoy your questions. Always a joy to have you on, Andy. Thank you for making time to be here. And Desi?
Hi, I'm Desiree, and coming in from Houston, Texas today. Yeah, I'm just excited to chat with y'all and get into it.
We're so excited to have you back on. Always joy. And Michael?
Yes, Michael from Southgate, Michigan, and definitely looking forward to being here today.
And we are definitely happy to have you back, as always. Seems like it's been a while. Did want to remind our viewers that none of us here are experts or authorities on the law of one. We are just normal people like you talking about spiritual things that seem important to us. Anything that any of us say could be wrong. You're welcome to disagree with anything or everything that any of us say. If you are already familiar with the law of one and the entity known as Quo, you might want to skip ahead to the chapter on what is the law of squares. Otherwise, for those who are new to the law of one, you can think of it as a set of spiritual teachings based on the understanding that all is one, and that one thing is love. All of the reading passages we're looking at today came to us through the process known as channeling. You can think of channeling as a form of telepathic communication between humans and entities such as angelic beings, extraterrestrial beings, inner planes beings, spirits of deceased, higher self, etc. A channel basically serves as a mouthpiece for other entities to speak through, and in this case, those entities would appear to be of extraterrestrial origin. There are two types of channeling that have been developed by our friends at L&L Research. Trance channeling is when the channel is in a trance state, meaning they are subconscious or unconscious as if asleep, meaning they are not aware of what words are coming out of their mouth as they're saying them. This is how contact was made with the entity known as Ra back in the early 1980s. You can think of conscious channeling as the channel being in a conscious but deep meditative state, meaning they are only somewhat aware of what words are coming out of their mouth as they're saying them. This is how contact was made with the entity known as Quo, starting in the mid-1980s up until present day. Who is Quo? You can think of Quo as a group entity made up of three social memory complexes: Ra at 6th density, Latui at 5th density, Hatan at 4th density. You can think of a social memory complex as a planetary consciousness. It would be as if the entire human population of Earth was merged into one group mind. You can think of densities and dimensions as different levels of consciousness, different levels of reality, since those two things are so closely intertwined. Imagine, if you will, that the elements of earth, fire, water, and air have some form of consciousness, as many indigenous peoples have been saying they do for centuries. We refer to that as first density. You can think of second density as the level of consciousness of plants and animals. Clearly, a quantum leap above and beyond the consciousness of what we would think of as inanimate matter. You can think of third density as the level of consciousness of humans and cetaceans, such as whales and dolphins. Clearly, a significant quantum leap above and beyond the consciousness of plants and other animals. You can think of fourth density as the level of the consciousness of the social memory complex. Again, it would be as if the entire human population of Earth was merged into one group mind. Clearly, a significant quantum leap above and beyond the consciousness of an individual person. You can think of fifth and sixth density as whatever would be comparable quantum leaps above and beyond fourth density. There is much more we could say on that, and if you're interested, check out our podcast episode on densities and dimensions. Otherwise, suffice it to say for now, the entity known as Quo appears to be made up of three planetary consciousnesses: Ra at sixth density, Latui at fifth density, Haton at fourth density. First contact with Quo was made by the LNL research channeling team back in 1986, almost 2 years after the end of the Ra contact in 1984. They've been channeled every month since then, up to the present day, by the LNL research channeling team. You can find transcripts of those channeling sessions at the LNL research conscious channeling library shown on your screen. Having said all that, let's take a look at a couple passages on what is the law of squares. We're going to read session 7 of the Ra contact, questions 1 through 6, where Ra is answering questions from Don about how many people would have to call on Ra or the Confederation in order for them to appear to us. So in question 1, Ra says, the service available for our offering to those who call is equivalent to the square of the distortion need of the calling divided by, or integrated with, or integrated with the basic law of one in its distortion, indicating the free will of those who are not aware of the unity of creation. Questioner, from this I am assuming that the difficulty you have contacting this planet at this time is the mixture of people here, some being aware of the unity, some not, and for this reason you cannot come openly or give any proof of your contact. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. As we just repeated through this instrument, we must integrate all the portions of your social memory complex in its illusory disintegration form. Then the product of this can be seen as the limit of our ability to serve. We are fortunate that the law of service squares the desires of those who call. Otherwise, we would have no beingness in this time-space at this present continuum of the illusion. In short, you are basically correct. The thought of not being able is not part of our basic thought form complex toward your peoples, but rather is a maximal consideration of what is possible. Questioner, by squared, do you mean that if 10 people call you, you can count that when comparing it to the planetary ratio of people as 100 people, squaring 10, getting 100? Is that correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is incorrect. The square is sequential, 1, 2, 3, 4, each squared by the next number. Questioner, to use an example, if only 10 entities on Earth required your services, how would you compute their call using the square rule? Ra, we would square 110 sequential times, raising the number to the 10th square. Questioner, what would be the result of this calculation? 24-second pause. The result is difficult to transmit. It is 1,012 approximately. The entities who call are sometimes not totally unified in their calling, and thus the squaring is slightly less. Thus there is statistical loss over a period of call. However, perhaps you may see by the statistically corrected information the squaring mechanism. Questioner, about how many entities at present are calling from planet Earth for your services? Ra, I am called personally by 352,000. The Confederation, in its entire spectrum of entity complexes, is called by 632 millions of your mind, body, spirit complexes. These numbers have been simplified. Super confusing to anyone who hasn't seen this before. And if you look at the concept guide found on the LNL Research Library, you'll see this graphic that I've taken from there that helps explain it more. Basically, the law of squares is called the doubling effect because it means each person who joins a group doubles the power of the group. So as they've said, one person calling doesn't have any power. It's not really counted. Second person calling doubles that of the first. Third person doubles the power of the group of two. Fourth person joining doubles the power of the group of three. So it goes from 4 to 8 to 16 to 32 to 64 and so on. If you were to put it on a graph like the one that we showed at the beginning, that's basically what it looks like. So you can see the power grows in a way that we might call exponential. Super interesting, since Carla apparently calculated that number to be 1,012, which is pretty close. It comes out to 1,024. She was really close in her calculations. I will have to ask Jim McCarty sometime if she was that good at doing math in her head. What do you think, Andy? Any thoughts on anything from these passages?
Just questions. It's like when they talk about a law, right? What do they mean by law? Is it like the law of gravity where, if we're they get a call, they have to answer it, there's no avoiding it? Or is it a law as in like, you shouldn't commit murder or you go to jail, as in, is it kind of optional or is it something inevitable? Like, I don't, that's something I'm sort of curious about. And another thing is, there's like 632 million entities calling. What counts as a call and how do they call? Because I don't think there's that many people who are aware of Ra. So like how do they know that they're being called if they're not aware specifically of Ra? And like, do they have to call for the same thing? Like what does their services entail? Like, so for instance, like my dog, and my two children might be calling me, but they all want me for different things. So like, and I can't fulfill everything all at once. So like, what counts as a call, basically?
Those are all great questions. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. What do you think, Desi? Any thoughts on any of that?
Yeah, I think maybe it's like the intentionality of the call, like, and the focus of it. Like if all participants are thinking of the same thing and putting intention behind it and wanting it to manifest or to ask for help. I, Even if they don't know Ra specifically, like they may not know that they're talking to Ra, but if they're just like, I'm suffering and I see the problems of the world and I want things to be better. And it can still be a call for help in that way. They may not know that Ra is from sixth density or whatnot, but I can still see that as still potentially helping a call.
That's how I was seeing it too.
Yeah.
It's
And
mainly a
like,
call for help. It's a distress call, one could say.
right. And as far as like what you were saying earlier about like, is it a law like they have to respond or they don't? I think it's more like they don't want to violate free will, right? Because that's like kind of more like pretty high on their list of things, like a no-no. And so in order to not violate that, there has to be enough uh people on Earth that are calling in a specific direction for them to be like, okay, well, if we help them, we're not violating all the other people's free will that maybe didn't want the help or don't believe that we can help. So it's more like, I think they're probably all willing to help, but they don't want to violate free will, is what I think is happening.
For sure. Yeah, and there is some other passage, I think, where they likened it to a pain in somebody's body and they're crying out in pain. And I think at their level of sixth density service to others, as they, I think, basically said, can't ignore that call. You cannot ignore that
Yeah.
help. Just like if you heard a baby crying, you would probably want to respond to it. Unless you're a really bad parent like me.
I mean, one question I have is like, can they also respond to a negative call? Like,
Oh,
obviously, if a bunch of negative people start calling, is there someone that on the, maybe not on Raw's side, but someone on the negative side who's like, oh,
for
a
sure.
bunch of them are calling, I'm going to respond in some way.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I
Yeah,
believe that is key to how the Orion Empire or group works, for sure.
right.
What do you think, Michael? Any thoughts on anything we've talked about?
Yeah, for me, when I look at the call, I almost see it as if your furnace breaks down, you're going to make a specific call. You're going to call a specific service. And what Ross said is the service we provide. So they can only provide service to, say, like a positive call. They
Hmm.
can't provide service to a negative, but they won't. And actually, I was reading a little bit further. When we call it a law, Ra actually made it a point to say it's not actually a law in terms of law. They speak of only one law, and that is the law of one. Everything else is a distortion, and
Mm.
I do believe that's a choice because the distortion of free will comes before that distortion. Free will is one of the first distortions,
Mm.
at least from what I read. That's
No, I was thinking the same thing, so I appreciate your bringing that up because Ra did say very clearly and explicitly there is only one law, and it is the law of one. So anything else that they refer to as a law, I think, could be considered, I don't know, a
the
lesser
way.
law or a corollary of
Yeah.
the law of one or something. I don't know. It seems to be kind of like Andy was saying, like the law of gravity. It does seem to be a metaphysical principle of how the universe works, that when people work together in groups or when you do something repetitively, it has a building of power in the way that they're describing here. And that we'll get into in future passages. There was another couple passages in this session I wanted to look at. Did anybody have anything they wanted to add on this slide or these couple slides before I show you something else?
Have you guys heard of the Maharashi effect?
I've heard of it.
It's
Yeah,
very,
for our
it's
viewers
very,
who haven't. Can
yeah, it's I think it was in the 70s, but they basically did these studies where they would get a bunch of people together in a city and meditate together, and they were basically trying to see if the crime rates would come down. And I think they statistically proved that that was the case. So I think it seems like evidence of the doubling effect or law of squares that in action that yes, if enough people come together and put their intention towards a call for good or well-being, that it does manifest in the physical too, like by a reduction in crime or more harmony in a particular city.
It's a great example. Appreciate it. I remember learning about it before, and if I remember right, it was about 10%. They were saying
Yeah,
about
they had some
10%
percentage
of
where
a
they're like,
group,
that's a tipping point to like have an effect or something. Yeah.
which is super encouraging given that there's like 8 billion people on the planet right now. And if 8 billion people all have to come to agreement on something, going to have a real
Hard to
hard
do.
time with that. But
Yeah.
yeah, if it's 10% are calling and asking for help and want to be part of a positive service to others social memory complex, want to live in a world based on love and understanding rather than fear and war, then that's nice to know. Anybody else? Anything else wanted to share about these passages before we look at something else? The next passage is continuing right after question 6. They're looking at the numbers because Ross said they're called by 352,000. The Confederation is called by 632 millions. And Don is asking how that would calculate out on the law of squares. So question 7. Questioner, can you tell me what the result of the application of the law of squares is to those figures? Ra, the number is approximately meaningless in the finite sense as there are many, many digits. It, however, constitutes a great calling which we of all creation feel and hear as if our own entities were distorted towards a great and overwhelming sorrow. It demands our service. Questioner, at what point would this calling be enough for you to openly come among the people on earth? How many entities on earth would have to call the Confederation? Ra, I am Ra. We do not calculate the possibility of coming among your peoples by the numbers of calling, but by consensus among an entire societal memory complex which has become aware of the infinite consciousness of all things. This has been possible among your peoples only in isolated instances. In the case wherein a social memory complex, which is servant of the creator, sees the situation and has an idea for the approximate aid, which can only be done among your peoples, the social memory complex desiring this project lays it before the Council of Saturn. If it is approved, quarantine is lifted. Super interesting passage, and it does remind me of a meme that I saw not too long ago featuring one of my favorite stand-up comics, John Mulaney, where the humans are saying, "Can we meet the aliens yet?" And the Confederation is saying, "Not unless everyone gets real cool about a bunch of stuff really quickly." Sorry, I'm just a huge fan of memes, as you shall see, and I couldn't resist sharing that. Really interesting passage, though. A lot of interesting things to unpack in here. Any thoughts on anything here, Desi?
Let's see. Yeah, I guess my thought is there also something more than just like the number of people? Is it also kind of like some power behind the how much intention? Like can one person with a lot of intention maybe have more power than a few people with kind of distorted or somewhat not focused intention? And I think maybe that's what they mentioned, or like not in necessarily these passages, but the ones you shared before about like there being a statistical like difference.
Right.
And maybe that's from, okay, maybe the call wasn't like maybe if you're all meditating on world peace, but then some of you start thinking about what's for lunch, then like it gets a little bit
I feel very attacked by that, Desi.
I mean, I'd be one of those people too. But it would kind of maybe less dampen it somewhat.
I think
Yeah.
so. I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think there was some reference to that either in one of the passages we just looked at or one that we're going to look at later, which is an interesting aspect, interesting part of it for sure. And I guess maybe that's why they do make such a big thing out of meditation and discipline of the personality and work in consciousness in terms of being able to focus your will and intent on something. Hadn't really thought about it that much. What do you think, Michael? Any thoughts on any of that or anything else?
Yeah, I really like the last paragraph. And I don't know why, but it immediately tells you that there was enough of a call after the Second World War, right around that time. The entities that were Jim, Carla, Don, and the Ra complex, there was an agreement made because the call was enough. The plan was put forth to the Council of Saturn, and it was approved as it said. And it's almost like he's speaking of himself in that plan that was put in place to deliver the law of one as it did, or as he did, which I can't get over that. I thought that's really, really nice. You know, it's heartening, like you said, it's encouraging because enough of a call was out, and it's only grown since then. I mean, it's only amplifying since then.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because I hadn't even thought of that in terms of the call from Don and Jim and Carla, and they're responding to that and having to put in an application to the Council of Saturn to have permission to speak through Carla. But you're right. Yeah, that is a thing. And it reminds me of some passage where they said they had been looking a long time for the right combination of entities to do that. And there was something about Don and Carla and Jim that they compared it to a paint chip. It was just the right color. It was just the right spectrograph match that they were looking for in order to do what they wanted to do. That's super fascinating. Oh, any thoughts on that, Andy, or anything else?
Yeah, I was thinking about like Desiree's question about like how strong the call is. And it did strike me, it's like, so it's a consensus and we don't have to be unanimous. And so I'll just quickly read you the definition. So when it's unanimous, it requires everyone to agree, but whereas if there's just a consensus, not everyone has to be like, right, we agree, definitely. It just means that, there can be some that say, yeah, all right, whatever, we don't care, if they want to come. So, yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of like how some people get elected because because
Yeah.
some people don't bother voting. So it's kind of like that. I think I'm not sure.
I was
I'm trying
told we
not to
weren't going
get
to talk
political. I'm
politics
sorry.
today.
Pardon?
I was
Yeah,
told we were not going to talk politics today
yeah, I know. I'm
by
sorry.
my producer, who is me. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. So, but my thing is, and I'm prone to worrying about hypotheticals that may never happen. Like, and my alarm is like quarantine is lifted. What does that mean, though? Does that mean it's only lifted for the positive, or both positive and negative? And what are the implications there then?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And yeah, just because I like to scare myself for no apparent reason makes life exciting.
Well, it is an interesting question. I don't think I had even thought of that in terms of looking at that last sentence there. The social memory complex, desiring this project, lays it before the Council of Saturn. If it is approved, quarantine is lifted. I was assuming they just meant for that particular social memory complex to do that particular thing. I wasn't thinking necessarily that they had to lift it for everybody or that they have to lift it for the opposing polarity also. But it's possible. We have not done a podcast episode yet on Council of Saturn. I've been kind of waiting for a while to get the right passages and the right people for it. But super fascinating. And for our viewers who are not familiar with this, they are mentioned more than a few times in the raw contact and in quo channelings. They are, I suppose you could think of them as the guardians, not just for this planet, but for this solar system in particular. So any outside entities, any entities outside this solar system, let's just say, who want to do anything on planet Earth, have to get approval from the council to do it, which is an interesting level of galactic bureaucracy that I didn't know existed before the Law of One. But super interesting, and looking forward to the podcast episodes when we do it. Anybody else? Anything to add on that? Any thoughts on Andy's question? It's a really good question about the quarantine.
Yeah. I mean, what I was thinking was, are you basically saying that quarantine can be lifted for some people, but others not because they don't, does that make sense? Or is the Council of Saturn waiting till like, okay, there's enough consensus on Earth that we can kind of lift it for the whole planet?
I
Like,
suppose it depends on your definition of quarantine, and I will have to admit
yeah.
it's not something that I've really spent a lot of time thinking about, but my understanding of it was that the guardians of this planet, after it might have been the Mars incident, I believe, where they
It's,
decided, you know what, there has been too much interference when they genetically manipulated the Mars population and transplanted them to Earth, causing all sorts of interesting, unforeseen consequences. I believe the Guardians at that point said, we have to put a quarantine in place in order to prevent any more extra tampering with Earth's population
mm,
from outside the solar system. So they've kind of compared it to a wall that, like spacecraft cannot penetrate.
yeah.
Any entities supposedly are not allowed to enter Earth unless called by Earth entities. So you can call for Confederation entities, you can call for Orion entities, and they're allowed to come. But without being called, without invited, I think that's the point of the quarantine. It's
Mm.
not permitted. Does that answer your question? Is that what you were wondering about?
Yeah, I think so. I think like I can see kind of both happening. Like you can kind of lift the veil on an individual level, but there's
Right.
also maybe a more collective lifting of the veil. But
I
I
think
do
so.
think, yeah. But to Andy's point about being fearful of like, oh, if we lift the veil, will that, cause negative entities to come in and cause more problems? I think that's maybe why the Council of Saturn is there, is to kind of measure like, okay, is this a good time to do this or not? Are they not ready? And I guess I'll put my trust that they know more than me and that they'll know when is the right
For
time
sure.
to lift it.
I think the guiding principle of the quarantine was to keep a level playing field
Yeah.
between service to others and service to self entities so that neither side was given an unfair advantage in influencing the free will of third density beings. So I think it was said that wanderers, anytime a sixth, fifth, fourth density wanderer wants to incarnate on Earth, they also have to go before the council and get their approval, permission to do it. So it certainly works on an individual basis as well. I don't know. That's just my take on it. I certainly could be wrong on anything or everything I said. Michael, Andy, any thoughts on it or different perspectives?
Not really. I guess, no. I think because of the wall analogy that when they said, oh, if someone tried to pass through, it'd be like trying to walk through, a brick wall, like you just can't. And hence it made me think, so does quarantine mean taking away that wall, and hence everyone and anyone can come through? But then there's also quarantine in the sense that, like, if I take my dog to Australia, it gets put in a hotel for like a month, and then so that quarantine is only for like the one entity, maybe. I don't know. Who
It'd be like a
knows?
door in the wall. I suppose they can open the
Yeah.
door
Yeah.
and let entities
Yeah,
pass
some people
through.
can open the door, maybe. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and they did talk about those little random openings that allow
Mm.
really shrewd negative entities to get through, since I believe it is part of the service to others philosophy that they would not violate quarantine. They would not come unless called. Whereas the negative path, that is kind of the whole point, to violate free will and to come without being called. So I think that was part of the reasoning for it. Why don't we go ahead? Let's move on and take a look at a couple passages about accelerating spiritual growth. In session 10 of the Raw Contact, in question 12, the questioner says, then although many entities are not aware of this, what they really desire is to accelerate their growth, and it is their job to discover this while incarnate. Is it correct that they can accelerate their growth much more while incarnate in third density than in between incarnations of this density? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. We shall attempt to speak upon this concept. The law of one has, as one of its primal distortions, the free will distortion. Thus, each entity is free to accept, reject, or ignore the mind-body-spirit complexes about it, and ignore the creation itself. There are many among your social memory complex distortion who at this time-space engage daily, as you would put it, in the working upon the law of one and one of its primal distortions, that is, the ways of love. However, if this same entity, being biased from the depths of its mind-body-spirit complex towards love-light, were then to accept responsibility for each moment of the time-space accumulation of present moments available to it, such an entity can empower its progress in much the same way as we describe the empowering of the call of your social complex distortion to the Confederation. Questioner, would you state in a little different way how you empower this call? Ra, I am Ra. We understand you to speak now of our previous information. The call begins with one. This call is equal to infinity and is not, as you would say, counted. It is the cornerstone. The second call is added. The third call empowers or doubles the second, and so forth, each additional caller doubling or granting power to all the preceding call. Thus, the call of many of your peoples is many, many powered and overwhelmingly heard to the infinite reaches of the one creation. So interesting. They're touching on things that we talked about in the previous passages, but in this case, they're saying that the law of squares applies not just to the size of entities calling for help, but also to someone who's trying to accelerate their spiritual growth. And that if one were to accept responsibility for each moment and present moment, one could accelerate their growth much the same way that the law of squares works for group callings. Super cool, and I would think super helpful for anyone to know who wants to accelerate their growth in this incarnation. Michael, any thoughts on anything here?
I mean, I really love this paragraph, or this these questions, this line of questioning. I really like that. And these are the word of the day that I've been hearing a lot, encouraging. And it's encouraging to know that as you move forward, you are doubling yourself too in the calls that you make. And it's very encouraging. Yeah, I like this one.
Yeah. Well, it reminds me of meditation. They've really encouraged us more than anything else to practice meditation. And I think the law of squares applies here. Nobody gets good at meditation the first time they try it, or the second, or maybe the third. It takes a while. But I think what they're saying here is the more that you practice it, the more powerful it gets and the better you get at it, which is, as you said, encouraging. Andy, anything to add?
Oh, yeah, so much. Right. I'm just like, yeah, right. Don't bullshit me, Ra, because I've been meditating for 30 odd years and I'm still none the wiser. I still get pissed off over petty things. I still hold on to anger, and like, yeah, right, bullshit. But
You're breaking the law of squares, I believe.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it might be true for everyone else, but not for me, like that little girl in my class who took my pencil. I haven't forgiven her, but at the same time, I guess it's it does help because it's like trying to start a habit or break a habit, right? At first it's really hard, and then gradually it becomes natural, and then suddenly one day you realize that it's not even something that you need to consciously do anymore. It just becomes part of who you are. So maybe that's what they mean. But then at the same time, I'm also thinking, like if I've been meditating and like, studying and seeking for so long, and I'm still so fucked up, like how much further have I got to go? And how shitty was I at the start of this incarnation, and like just like doesn't make sense. And also it's like, well, if that's the case in terms of like the calling and the growth, but then the paradox is that we're all meant to be pure when we're born. So like what? I don't know anything. Someone enlighten me.
You're a special case, I believe. You are what we call spiritually special ed, Andy. And that's why you're here, because we're all special ed cases for sure. We're all slow learners. No, I appreciate your sharing that. And I can see how, I mean, it can be frustrating for so many people who might not be seeing the amount of progress that they were hoping for or would like to. And I think maybe that's one of the beauties of being part of a study group, that you can learn faster, I think, by being around other people and learning and sharing together, I think. I don't know, Desi, any thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with that. Sometimes it can be confusing if you have been maybe meditating for a long time or doing spiritual studies for a long time and you feel like, oh, why isn't life getting more easy for me? Or why am I still so triggered? And I do feel like sometimes there's ebbs and flows, there's still ups and downs, even as you can zoom out and you're still like kind of moving in that direction. But you can have a low point within that trajectory where it feels kind of like you've lost steam or you've regressed. But I try to remember that, like, to give yourself grace. And when I zoom out, I do feel like I have my moments where I maybe like respond in the wrong way or like don't show love in the moment. But I think if I zoom out further enough, it's like, okay, well, the average trajectory is still improving. So I can relax on if like every so often I make some mistakes and, not perfect.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it
but
is
yeah,
always helpful to remind ourselves that we are literally living through Armageddon and the end of the world. So it's a little stressful.
yeah,
A little stressful.
yeah, very
Finding that
stressful.
inner peace is, I think, a challenge for all of us. At least me, for sure. Michael,
Right.
anything to add?
I just, I'm reminded that people throughout thousands of years have been moving forward, you know what I mean, in their growth and their progress. And we've led ourselves to this point, and even though it does feel like a point of Armageddon, we're not in Armageddon yet. So, we've been doing good so far. I mean, Earth is definitely a school for learning, and it's a special school. Special in which way? I don't know.
I don't know about you guys, but I took the short bus to get here.
Yeah.
I suppose Armageddon might have been the poor word choice because we're not living through
We're
the
close,
blowing
but
up
not
of
there
the
yet.
planet.
We're like dancing with it a little bit.
Yeah. We're right
Dancing with those energies for sure. And we
Yeah.
are living through the end of third density world and the beginning
Absolutely.
of fourth density. So it is extremely polarizing, extremely chaotic, extremely stressful for sure. So I don't know, Andy, give yourself a break. You must be doing at least as well as most people around, I'm guessing, and probably a fair bit better.
It's a
Yeah,
school.
it's
We're all
funny because I've got to the point where I'm not trying anymore, and it's like fuck this. Like I I've got to a point where like I just in a way have given up spiritual seeking, and it's like when I come to any information now, it's like, okay, is this going to make me kinder? Is this going to make me more loving? Is this going to bring me more peace? And and if it doesn't, then it's not relevant to me now. And and the anger, it's like, yeah, I'm angry, that's fine. And it's actually made the journey easier because I'm not judging myself anymore for being angry. I can take a step back and go, oh, there's this version of Andy who's angry right now, and how cute.
Oh, that's a nice way to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Being non-judgmental of yourself is a huge step towards not being angry, because that peace is going to come from within you first, not from anything you read on the outside. It's going to come from within you. And then the things you read on the outside will definitely reflect what's already within. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah, and judging other people as well. It's certainly easy to be judgmental of others who seem to be doing things that just seem unexplainable or seem incredibly cruel and hurtful. But as I think you're suggesting, I mean, that is part of the challenge that we've been given, to see the creator in them and to see ourselves in them and do the shadow work of embracing those who we see as our shadow selves, rather than trying to fight them or push them away, but to embrace them and integrate and respect the
That's
need
one
for
of the
wholeness.
hardest.
Just like the yin yang thing, we need both in order to be whole.
There's love in every moment, like Quo says. Every single moment contains love, no matter what that moment holds. There's the love of the creator in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah, not always easy to see. Not obvious for sure. Did anybody else have anything to add on this passage before we change topics and look at something else? Let's go ahead and take a look at a couple passages on. Reminder that the present moment, I forgot, I was going to say, they do reference the present moment in this passage where they say, if this same entity, being biased from the depths of its mind, body, spirit complex towards love, light, were then to accept responsibility for each moment of the time-space accumulation of present moments available to it, such an entity could empower its progress much in the same way we described. Present moment is something that's mentioned a lot. They have likened experiencing the present moment to experiencing infinity, to capturing magic, because there are an infinite number of present moments in any given day. So it's an important part of the spiritual teachings that we get a lot. And we did do a podcast episode on the present moment, looking at some great passages, looking at that from different angles. So just want to put a plug in there. Otherwise, let's go ahead and take a look at a couple passages on magic and the doubling effect. On January 19th, 2008, Quo said, "This instrument and the one known as Jim have long created times of offering and worship at the beginning and end of the day. They have also formed the habit of remembering before food is ingested, to thank the one infinite creator and to thank the food. These are more these are far more outer in terms of type of ritual than the kind of ritual of which we have been speaking. And yet it is helpful in the devotional life to set aside times that are specifically dedicated to worship. This enables the seeker to deepen his base of insight as time goes on. It is possible in this way to create of an entire life a dance that is an invocation of the one infinite creator. The element of repetition is a substantial part of a magical ritual. Something that is done once, no matter how beautiful, remains single. When that beautiful thing begins to be repeated, there is indeed the doubling effect. That is, each doing of that repetition with full awareness of its sacredness doubles the power of that ritual. Beautiful extrapolation, I think, of what we were just looking at, where they were talking about how a practice can become empowered the more that you do it. And in this case, the magical power can. I love this passage because they talked about how Carla and Jim created times of offering of worship at the beginning of the end of the day and formed the habit of remembering before food is ingested to thank the Creator. And this is something that my wife Miriam and I have started doing the last few weeks, is also saying prayers at the beginning and at the end of the day to dedicate this day as an offering to the one infinite Creator, and to ask for help in opening our hearts and keeping our hearts open as much as we can to receive Creator's love and to bless it and to radiate it out to the world as best we can. And again, yeah, there's a learning curve there, but I'd like to think we're getting a little better at it each day. Oh, any thoughts on anything here, Andy? Do you have any similar practices that you have learned to do over repetition?
Yeah, so I wake up every morning and this is something I highly recommend because it's worked so well for me. As soon as I wake up, I sit up and meditate on my bed. Like, I don't go and pee or anything first. And it's great for like staying, like letting yourself drift into the waking state from the dream state as well. So I do an hour of meditation. And then I have a drink, and then I do the LIRP, and then I do the Lord's Prayer, and then I do the middle pillar exercise, and it's like every morning. But for ages I was only doing the LBRP, and then I had a calling to do more, and I didn't even want to do the LBRP because it's like, like, how can waving your arms around and making a load of like nonsensical noises help someone spiritually progress? Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, how's this going to make me bring me more peace? But I kind of just did it anyway, and I don't know if it's that or the meditation or anything else, but it has made me more accepting. It has kind of it feels like I flow more with creation and whatever's around me, and just like when I prepare food, I just go, thanks mum, as in, Mother Earth, and I treat it very much more like the earth and the creation is my family. I talk to the creator like I talk to my dad or my mum, and in fact better than because I don't really get on with my mum, but but yeah, I'm sort of trying to do work on the divine feminine, and so it's like getting into the habit of that. And I seriously don't know if any of it works, and there's no way of knowing really. There's parts of me that often thinks, like, am I just like bullshitting myself? But actually, so what if I am? Because I'm one out of like 8 billion people. It doesn't matter what I believe. It's just whatever gets me through this ride, in the most joyful, peaceful way. And the rest is just like intellectual. And just one more thing I wanted to add. Great film. It's called Perfect Days. I don't know if you guys know it, by Wim Wenders. And it's about this Japanese man who cleans toilets. And it's one of the most beautiful, there's hardly any dialogue. And it's just this magic, of him eating, looking up into the trees and the shadows, and it's just the most beautiful film. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Wim Wenders, but I highly recommend it.
He directed Wings of Desire, which was a great movie about angels in Berlin, I believe. What's the name of the film you just mentioned, Andy?
Perfect Days, I think. Let me.
Sounds
Yes.
good. Yeah, sounds beautiful. Would love to check it out. Anything to add, Desi? Any thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah, the only like sort of more ritualistic thing I do, at least consistently, is just like a prayer before eating. Um, but I do think that I do need more of a morning ritual to start the day and maybe to end the day as well. Um, Sometimes it's a little crazy with our 2-year-old because it's just like whatever chaos is happening, things kind of I've lacked that consistency. Um, but I do like the prayer before eating. That one's been more easy to follow on. Um, and if I'm with folks that maybe aren't about that or feel weird about that, I just kind of do it silently. So it's like I'm still doing it, but I'm not like, imposing on anybody. Um, but I do like the fact about when I think about sometimes I do agree that rituals and even like the raw contact when they talk about Carol having like, oh, we have to move the Bible this many degrees and this like it seems sometimes silly to me. But what I think about now is more that like, oh, they're so intentional and they're treating this moment so sacredly. And that's kind of more the gist of it, of like whether things are angled a certain way is just how they're showing how it's how they're physically demonstrating that they have a lot of care is how I'm seeing it. But yeah.
Indeed. Yeah, if I remember right, Jim has said at least once or twice in our Q&A sessions that it took them a while for them to realize that when Ra was giving them instructions on the little fine details of the appurtenances, they said what they really meant was referring to their asking questions that were of a transient nature or a more spiritual nature. So it was Ra's way of trying to get them to not talk about UFOs so much or not talk about things
Yeah.
of transient nature, but really focus more on the spiritual things. That's my recollection of it. I could be wrong, but I do seem to remember him saying that, which would explain why they were making such a big deal out of minute little
Like these
details.
little, yeah, adjustments.
Yeah. What do you think, Michael? Any thoughts on anything here?
You know, this reminded me of what I wasn't doing when I first read this passage. I don't eat meat, but my kids do, and the animals I have do. So whenever I'm making that, I always say a prayer of thanks to myself and to the animal and to whatever was involved. But I forget to thank Gaia for the fruits and the vegetables and all the things that I eat. I honestly realize that. And it does remind me that I haven't been doing that. That was my first thought on this. So that's going to be very helpful. And I love how Andy said she was doing the LBRP. I haven't done that in years. And my first thought was I imagine that would be very helpful. And it must be doing something, there must be something to it. So that's something I'd like to incorporate into what I do in my morning and evening meditations.
Nice. Yeah, I don't know if the banishing ritual is really meant for one's spiritual growth so much as a purifying. I think it's meant to purify a workspace for spiritual work, which is, I believe, why the raw contact team would do it before they did the raw contact, just to purify that space. But I appreciate what Andy was saying about the Lord's Prayer. I could see how that could be a really beautiful practice to do at the beginning of the day. I don't think I've really developed a real ritual of like the words that I say, but I know when I do my early morning meditation soon after I get out of bed that I do make a point of saying hi to my guardian angels and my spirit guides, and I do make a point of asking them, thanking them for the help that they've given me, and asking them to help me do today whatever it is I came to this incarnation to do, and to help me be of service to others as best I can. And that I think I have found helpful, and I think I have seen visible, tangible results from that as I do it over and over again, make a ritual out of it. Andy, did you have something to add?
Yeah, so I just wanted to add about my rituals. I don't do the LBRP in the mornings anymore. I do the LIRP, which is the invoking ritual,
Hmm.
to kind of bring in the energies. And then at night I have a different ritual where I do the LDRP, which is the protection one before I sleep. And that is with a 20-minute meditation. And then I sing Amazing Grace, all 7 verses, and that's when I do the LBRP as well. So like I punctuate my days with that. And you know, and I find it's just so there's no like miraculous moment of like, oh wow, my life is like perfect now. But it's just really subtle. It's all about just becoming more accepting and yeah, and losing the self. Like I feel like I'm invincible now because there's nothing to vince, if that makes sense. There's like this disappearing of the self very gradually. And the whole Mother Gaia thing is just like recently I realized like every single cell in my body, my eyes, my eyelashes, every single hair comes from our Mother Earth, And like that thought just blows my mind every day, like for now anyway, until the next thing pisses me off.
Well, and that's why I appreciated what Desi said about giving thanks before meals, because, yeah, that's something I think Miriam and I have made a practice of too. And we do it in our own different ways, so we usually do it silently to ourselves also. But yeah, I think the act of giving thanks to all who gave their lives and consciousness for the meal, the animals and the plants and the people and the nature spirits and the elements. And yeah, I think it is a nice practice of expressing that gratitude. And I usually ask them to be blessed and healed of whatever pain and suffering they had to endure, especially if it was an animal. And yeah, I think that's important. I like the part in the second paragraph where they said it's possible in this way to create of the entire life a dance that is in invocation of the one infinite creator. Everybody does it their own way, and what's right for one person isn't necessarily right for anyone else. But I like the idea that it's a dance, and you're dancing with energies, you're dancing with spirits, you're dancing with the creator. It's a beautiful thing. We did, in fact, do a podcast episode called The Dance, where we looked at a number of different passages, looking at that metaphor in different ways, and highly recommend it. Anybody else have any other thoughts on this passage before we look at something else? Sounds good. Let's see. I think there is another passage here. This one is from January 19th, 2008. Quo said, "Angels are not drawn to a particular song or a particular set of words. Angels are drawn to pure essence, having never taken part in incarnation. Consequently, any living of a devotional life will attract angelic help, so that there is indeed not only the doubling effect of amplification of one's personal power, but the supporting and undergirding effect of angelic support and encouragement. In closing, we would simply say that we cannot iterate often enough the importance of moving from love and from essence in creating a devotional life. If there is not love and the repetition of holy things, then that energy, while not wasted, is diminished in its power to comfort, heal, and succor the seeker. Therefore, do not be caught up in the forms of devotional life, but rather be caught up with the emotions engendered by having an open heart and an open energy body, and experiencing the self as part of the dance of the one that is ongoing, because he exists in that creation in which all things are indeed one coordinated, eternal dance." Again, love the dance metaphors, and I love the reminder that there are angels who are attracted to us in proportion to the purity of our seeking. So the doubling effect, not only applies to just the personal power, as they're saying here, but the supporting and undergirding effect of angelic support and encouragement. What a beautiful, yet another encouraging thing for us to hear and remember. Desi, any thoughts on anything here?
Yeah, I mean, the part about just having love behind everything that you do, I think can't be iterated enough. That yeah, all the ritual practices are amplified by the love, the intention that you have behind them. Same as your calling for help or for yeah, from Ra or whatnot, is all the more love you have behind it, I feel like the more potency it has to reach up higher.
Yeah. And I really appreciate the way they said it in the last paragraph of, don't get caught up in the forms, the details of the practice, but rather get caught up in the emotions of it. As you're saying, the feelings, the intentions behind it. I think that's a beautiful, powerful teaching for sure. Michael, any thoughts on anything here?
Yeah, I really like this one too. Basically, it is the intention behind what you're doing. It's not what you do. It's the intention behind it. How important is it to you? I mean, what importance do you place on it in your life? And do you know that it's having an effect? You know that it's doing something. It's having a good effect.
Yeah,
And that makes all the difference.
for sure. Yeah. Andy, anything to add?
Yeah, it's so wonderful and lovely, and I love the bit about the importance of moving from love and creating a devotional life, and especially to not be caught up in the form of devotional life. So whilst I do complain about doing the LIRP and the LBRP, even though I do it, but I complain about doing it, I also recognize that it's a kind of test and a discipline um for my own sincerity. So, it's like, well, how much do you want this? And this is your path. So for me, although I complain, I do it. And as I do it, I recognize that it's an act of obedience, I guess, to my journey, and my calling, which is I recognize as being different and unique to everyone else's. I'm not saying that it's the only way, but it's just my way. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Your way apparently is to be dragged kicking and screaming into fourth density.
Yeah, exactly. And like I've had like nagging. It's like, right, you got to do this magic work, and I'm like, I just want to nap and meditate. Like, leave me alone. And and then things have to happen in my life that make me go, all right, fine, I'll do it. But like, why me? Like, I'm an idiot. Go choose someone else. And it's like, it's because you're an idiot that you've been called. So I'm like, yeah, all right then, fuck it. So, yeah.
Well, no, I appreciate your sharing that, and I'm pretty sure we can all relate to that in one way or another. I think meditation is like that for me. I'm relatively new to it. I only started about 5 years ago when I discovered the Law of One, and took me a while to find a practice that works for me. But even now, it feels a little bit like a chore. Sometimes I kind of have to psych myself up to do it, and then once I get into it, it's like, oh yeah, it feels great, and then I want to keep going and don't necessarily want to stop. But it's like going to the gym. You don't want to go to the gym, but once you get to the gym, it's like you're glad that you went. So hopefully I will get to the point where I just always look forward to it, and that'll be great.
Yeah. I think, yeah, like the creator has a unique path for each and every one of us, and it's kind of non-negotiable. Like, we can't bargain or haggle. We just have to follow it. But we can complain, and I'm gonna complain. I'll do it, but I'll complain.
There was a passage we used in one of our podcast episodes not too long ago where Quo said something to the effect that if third density was easy for you, you wouldn't be allowed to be here. The Council of Saturn would not allow you to be here if you were just going to skate through and do magical miracle shit and like fix everything, in one wave of the hand. It's like you wouldn't be allowed to be here. We're only here because we're struggling. So you're in good company for sure. At least we know. I think that's the beauty of it. They mentioned way back in the beginning that the calling deals with people's capacity to see the infinite possibilities of things, or to be able to see oneness in all. That's something that apparently not that many people on the planet are in a place to be able to see. So if we can help with that at all, and however we live our lives, that's a great thing. It's a privilege. Anybody else have any thoughts on anything here before we look at another passage on another subject? Sounds good. I did want to remind folks that we did do a podcast episode on magic, and we did do a podcast episode on angels and archangels. We've done 70 of these things so far, so I'm always going to be referencing previous podcast episodes that I encourage you to check out if you want to dive deeper into some of the things that we're touching on here. Otherwise, let's go ahead and take a look at a passage on group karma. On January 25th, 2020, not that long ago, Quo said, "The desire on your part to walk the road of restitution is that desire which blazes a trail, shall we say, in your consciousness and in your subconscious mind that has a connection with these entities, so that in your own effort to make restitution, there is a sharing of the possibility of this path being traveled by others." I forgot to mention this passage is in response to a question about group karma and restitution. Quo goes on to say, "You may see yourself as a kind of way shower that in both your conscious and unconscious minds, you construct a pattern of sharing the potential of love to grow within your being, so that you yourself become the change that you wish to see in the world of cause and effect. You, by making this decision, take the first step on a journey of 1,000 miles, shall we say. The first step is most crucial, for it is the foundation for all further steps. As you continue to move upon this path of restitution, you begin to build a kind of momentum that is empowered by each further step. You begin to find a strength within that you have not had before, so that as you take each step, the strength is doubled and redoubled, so that you are greater than you were manyfold as you continue on this journey of restitution. We are aware that you have a kind of feeling of karma, shall we say, that is related to a larger grouping of entities that they themselves have a feeling of as well. You are unusual, even unique in this grouping, in your desire to stop the wheels of karma. Seeing that, even though it is a monumental task, this is the time to begin that journey. Is there a further query, my sister? Lynn, I would just ask if the law of squares would come into play in what you were saying. Quo, I am Quo, and I am aware of your query, my sister. And this is indeed a concept which we were expressing when we mentioned that each succeeding step will double and redouble the power of your determination to, shall we say, open the doors to love and restitution. I think we were talking about this at our last Q&A with Jim McCarty the other day, and we were talking about how as we are making this transition from third density to fourth density, it's kind of forcing us to confront unbalanced karma, to deal with things that we have not really done that well. And much of that deals with systemic racism and slavery and white supremacist culture and all the other ways that our system seems to oppress those who have black or brown skin. So I like the idea here that they're talking about a way of making restitution or balancing that karma, that you take it one step at a time, and the first step might not do much, but the more that you do it, the more that you're able to accomplish. And I think I can see a fair bit of progress being made in our world these days in that respect, and that is, again, encouraging, I would say. Michael, any thoughts on anything here?
Yeah, absolutely. Like the example you were just giving, slavery, at some point in our history, somebody realized this is wrong on so many levels. It's wrong and that doubled, and and people started to realize that. And modern day slavery is, you don't see it. I mean, it's there, and we call it different things. It is definitely there, but they refer to it as something else. But yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, through our history, the population has learned. I mean, the entities in control, they have a way of rebranding it as something else. But yeah,
For sure.
I agree with this completely.
Yeah, I believe we call it prison labor. It's basically
Yeah,
what it is.
exactly.
For folks who weren't aware of this, the 13th Amendment didn't quite abolish slavery. The 13th Amendment abolished slavery except as punishment for a crime. So they made a little loophole for it, and the ink wasn't even dry on the 13th Amendment before southern states started passing vagrancy laws, making it a crime for people to be standing around in particular, swept up all the newly freed slaves, threw them back in prison, and started putting them to work. I believe if you Google up convict leasing system, that's what started back then. And it still exists to this day in terms of mandatory minimums, school to prison pipeline, 3 strikes, you're outlaws, privatized prisons, and cheap prison labor. To this day, many of the things that you buy have actually been made by convicts, including potatoes.
It is absolutely why you get pennies per hour to make things that, and then the laws, once you become a prisoner, are designed to keep you there, to make it so difficult for you to find your way out. You just don't. You're just there. That's it. There's no. It is not about making somebody better. In a lot of ways, it's not. But anyways.
No, it is about enslavement, which is pretty much key to the service to self path. So again, it's a great opportunity for us to be able to see if we can make better choices that are more service to others and more respectful of seeing the creator and all others, regardless of their skin color or their gender or their sexual orientation or what country they came from or whatever. Giving everybody the same rights and treatment and privileges as ourselves. I think that's the choice we're being given. Sorry, that was a long detour. What do you think, Andy? Any thoughts on anything?
Yeah, that thing about slavery is really heartbreaking, and I think there's, yeah, well, I don't want to belittle the experience, but I think there's also the kind of mental slavery, where people believe they have to live in fear and they follow systems blindly. And that keeps us enslaved as well.
Sure.
And yeah, I'm talking out my ass. I don't know what I'm saying. So forgive me. I don't want to sort of belittle anyone's experiences.
No, but you're echoing what Ross said, I think, about examples of unintentional enslavement being too many. There are so many different ways that we unintentionally enslave others or ourselves. That's what I was picking up from what you were saying. And I think that's true and important.
Yeah. Thank you. But yeah, the thought of restitution, I think, can be really terrifying. I went through a phase of thinking, oh my God, I'm gonna be punished for all the shitty things I've done and all the shitty things I'm gonna do, and it can be terrifying. And that can, sort of like keep me in chains and imprison me. Because I think for a long time I thought of restitution as compensation, as having to pay back. But then I started thinking restitution as restoration, of shit happening because so that I can sort of be open and awaken to a different perspective so that I then can restore things to how creation intended things to be. And that kind of brings me more peace, that sort of idea of restitution. I don't know if that helps
I
anyone.
think restitution comes in many different forms. Obviously, money would be one thing, but I think it comes in many different forms. What do you think, Desi? Any thoughts?
Yeah, on restitution, yeah, sometimes it does sound like almost like a punishment for crimes of the past. And it's hard when those crimes may have been not even committed by you. They might have been just committed by, generations before you. But I view it more as kind of what you're saying restoration is in changing the mental models that we had in the past that led to those bad outcomes. Like I think that's more restorative of like just like let's stop thinking that way and acting that way, and then make sure that we have an understanding of why that was wrong in the past so that we don't repeat those mistakes in the future. I see that's as more restorative because it prevents it from happening again. Um, yeah, and I think in the past maybe slavery was more overt. It was just more out in the open and like more widely practiced. And in today's society, it's more subtle or it's hidden or, it exists in black markets or, or maybe it's even existing in the sense of like not paying people like a living wage. Like I view that as like, you're not allowing someone to have the dignity to be able to meet the needs that they need in their life, and you're exploiting them for their labor. So I kind of view that's not that dissimilar from slavery. It's like, yeah, maybe they can leave or something, but if like all the other options they have are the same where they can't survive, then it's like, do they really have a choice? So I think it's almost like more complicated today because it's more subtle. So it's harder to point out, it's like you have to really kind of look to see where it's still there. But it's like the thought pattern is still there. The thought that I'm going to exploit another human to gain for myself, it's still there. It may not be as like dramatic as it was pre-Civil War or something, but that same thought is still existent, so it still occurs.
Yeah, and I would imagine the people who are on the receiving of it don't find it subtle at all. It's really
Yeah,
obvious to
that's true.
them. And
Yeah.
maybe as obvious as the ICE raids that we're seeing that are clearly targeting brown skinned people. That's fairly obvious. Might not think of it as enslavement in particular, but it is oppression, yeah, for sure. I don't know. To me, I think of it in terms of karma. So whether it's in terms of restitution or restoration, for me, it just has to do with balancing karma, righting the wrongs that have been done in the past, regardless of whether it was me who did it or ancestors who did it. And I think I'm reminded of what Quo or Ra have said at least a couple of times, which is the love is the answer to every question. Love is the solution to every problem. So being loving towards those who we have been unkind to before and listening to them and working together, treating them with respect to see if we can come to a solution to right the wrongs of the past and give everyone the equal treatment they deserve. I don't know what it looks like in detail. I don't know how I would do it if I was a politician, but just on a general principle, I think each of us can have a part to play in that and how we deal with people in our sphere of influence. I think I gave up on trying to influence the political system a long time ago. It became very clear to me I have no control whatsoever over that. So I'm just going to focus on what I have control over. And sometimes it's just inside me. How I respond to stuff is about all I have control over. I don't know. Anybody have any other thoughts on anything here?
I like the restitution part of this. I'm performing my own restitution, and it's actually very small in comparison to these things we've been talking about, but it has to do with littering. I'm a smoker. I used to throw my cigarette butts everywhere. I wasn't thinking about it until one day I did. I realized what I was doing, and since then, as a thank you to Gaia, to Mother Earth, for allowing me the time and the patience and a lot, to learn this. I pick up trash where I see it, and I don't go running around doing it, but you pick it up when you see it, and it's just my way of saying thank you. And to me, that is a form of restitution.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I would like to think that makes a big difference for the planet.
You
I think,
too.
as they have said, all acts of service are equal. A person scrubbing the toilet with love in their heart can make as much difference as someone who's healing 1,000 people. And in fact, that person scrubbing the toilet with love in their heart could be making a bigger difference in the world if the person healing isn't necessarily doing it with love in their heart. So I think what you're doing, just those what seem like small acts in space time, I think are huge things in time space. It's beautiful. Really loving the conversation, and I am sorry that we are, I think, like approaching the end of it. Did anybody else have anything else to say on this passage before we look at one more topic?
Just a question, like how do we know when restitution has happened? And especially, um like this thing of being a way shower, what is the way and how do we know? And like how do we you know like what is the way? And how do we know if we're going the right way? And yeah,
What do you think?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking. Like,
Man, I feel like I'm in high school again. That's exactly
yeah,
what happened in my class.
tell
So many
me.
times. Student would
Yeah,
ask me a question. I'd say, I don't know. What do you think? I don't
yeah.
know. That's why I'm asking.
Like, do I get a halo? Like, that'd be great, if like you
Uh,
get like something that you can see, like maybe your hand turns blue, or I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you think? Desi, Michael, any thoughts?
I think
I don't
that's where
know.
faith comes in. Where faith comes in and trusting yourself, I because it's never ending, isn't it? I mean, everything is infinite. Things are infinite. So truly, those desires, the intention is never ending.
I think whatever you're doing, if you're doing it with love in your heart, you're doing it with the intention of being of service to others, you're doing it through a lens of seeing that other person as creator, as yourself, and seeing all as one, then I think that's as much as anybody can know about what's the right way to go. That's the best answer I got. I don't know. Any other thoughts on anything before we move on? I see
Yeah, I
Andy's looking
mean,
very pensive. Andy,
Yeah,
you're
I
looking
guess.
up at the ceiling.
I
What were you going to
always
say?
have so many questions. I've got another question as well, actually.
Yeah, go
Um,
for it.
but
Let's hear it.
Desiree was talking. So another question. And there's also another bullshit thing that I don't understand. It's like when someone says, "Okay, become the change you see in the world," and then you meet like some people, and I've met a lot of spiritual gurus, or like I'm sure you guys have met them too, like really pious people who are like really holy, and and make a big show of their spirituality, and they would say, "Oh yeah, I am being the change I want to see in the world." But like these people are like the most judgmental fuckwits I've ever met, right? And I just don't want to be around them at all, ever. And it's like, I don't want a world where everyone's like you. Like, fuck that. I'd be miserable, like, but like, so how do you tell if you're the change you want to see in the world? Like, I don't want a world full of pious, self-righteous, sanctimonious people.
Well, but it sounds like you know already, just based on what you've said. You know that you don't want to be like that person. You know you don't want the world to be like that person's vision of the world. So, what more do you need to know?
But they're being the change they want to see in the world. Maybe they want a pious, self-righteous, judgmental world. I don't
Yeah.
have to.
Well, and that's the problem I always run into. It's like I want people to be more like I am. I want more people to see the world the way I do, and that's just not really realistic, and it's not really why we're here, and it's not really for anybody's good. So I'm slowly learning to get better at not expecting that, but that's part of my learning, I think. I don't know. What do you think, Desi? You were going to say something a little while ago.
Yeah, I think it's like you still have to be your authentic self, and that can be a way shower just as much as like the internet guru who's like got a bunch of followers and appears very pious. Like I think that's why our differences are important, because like you're a fractal of God, and so whatever you bring to the table, you should bring forth that and not worry too much about like what so and so over here is bringing forward. As long as you're being authentic and loving and of service to others, that can look a lot of different ways, I still think, but it can still be very you and feel like, not like you're trying to be something you're not, I guess.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I know Quo has said at least a couple of times that you're not here to change anyone else, and you're not here to change the world. You're here to fix yourself on the inside. If you really want to fix the world on the outside, he said the best way to do it is fix the world on the inside. I have found that to be true. Oh, does that make sense, Andy? Or are you still grappling with that?
Yeah, no, that's lovely. Thank you. It's like you're like a light bulb that's just gone ding, Desiree. Thank
Aw.
you.
Well, you ask great questions, so it helps me think about things more, how you ask things.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like I ask questions that seem like really obvious to others, and I still don't get it anyway. But go on. Thank you.
Yeah, and that again is the beauty of being in a group. I learn things from panelists every time I do these podcasts. Every time we do a Zoom session, I always learn stuff from other people who are there. So, viewer, really want to encourage you, if you are not part of a Law of One study group, there are a lot of them out there, maybe near you geographically or maybe far away, but most of them meet online, so it doesn't really matter how far away they are. Just go to the L&L Research website and click on Connect and find study groups and see if there's a group that you can vibe with. Anybody else? Anything else wanted to say before we look at one more topic? Let's take a look at a passage on... We did a podcast episode on karma, by the way. Check it out if you haven't seen it yet. Lots of great passages in there. I do appreciate how the Law of One and our friends in the Confederation, there's a lot of Christian overtones in a lot of what's been said, mainly because of Carla and Jim's devout Christian faith. But there are things from Eastern spirituality that are talked about a lot, including karma and reincarnation and meditation. And I appreciate that blending of East-West. So they've said quite a bit about karma. Check it out, viewers. Otherwise, let's take a look at a passage on group work. On March 25th, 2023, not that long ago, Quo said, "The forming groups to engage in the meditative practice and seeking to be of service to others is a process which we find is most helpful on your planet at this time, as it would be upon any third density planet, for you are all part of that one creator which you seek. That one creator is available to you in a meditative state, so that when you listen to that still small voice within, you are listening to the one who is in all. Such meditative techniques and organizations and groupings are that which pave the path to the fourth density of love and understanding. This is the way in which the Confederation of Planets and the service of the one infinite creator has suggested throughout all time within your third density experience, whether it be in channeling groups such as this one, in contact in the meditative state, or in the daily life experience where our presence may be felt, in sending love and light to various groups and planets. This is our connection. We are all the one infinite creator that exists as seemingly separate portions within your third density illusion. That you are emphasizing the working together as that which is most important, for each one teaches the other. There are many ways of experiencing the Creator, and as you shine your own way, you enlighten others as to another way, and give a doubling effect, shall we say, to the seeking of all. For that which you seek is within you, and that which you seek is without you. That which you seek is in all entities. Those who seek together may far more surely find." Yeah, beautiful phrasing that I think they have said elsewhere. And I wanted to choose this passage in particular for our viewers who are not aware of this. Gaia Meditations are something that Jim and Carla started back in 2001, shortly after the 9/11 attacks. They asked Quo what they could do to help, and Quo suggested group meditations for Mother Earth. So they have been doing it more or less every day since 2001, and the official time of the Gaia Meditation now is 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. So if you go to LNL Research, hit the Connect tab, scroll down to the bottom where it says Gaia Meditation, you can click on View More to get more details on it. Suffice it to say, at that time every day, Jim McCarty and whoever else is in meditation for our Mother Earth. And the Law of Squares applies to all those meditations over the years, as well as the numbers who join. Jim did also put together a video of a Gaia healing meditation. If you go to YouTube and just search for Gaia Meditation, Jim McCarty, you'll find a nice, beautiful, short video that you can use to help with your visualizations if you want. Did you have any thoughts on anything here, Andy?
Just, do you think that like the law of squares works with the negative as well, or is it because it's like I don't know what the proportion is now of positive harvestable versus people who are in the sinkhole versus people who are negative. But what I have found working in large organizations, and believe it or not, at some point in my career, I was actually in charge of like managing 200 people. And I know I don't look it, but
I was just thinking 200. Wow, that's a lot.
yeah, no, so and and I've have managed like large groups before, and I've noticed that 99% of the people are absolutely fine or wonderful, but it's the 1% who are difficult that make it really, really difficult for everyone else. And so there is a kind of disproportionate effect of that negativity. Is that why it feels like the world is so shit right now? And despite there being a growing number of people awakening in the law of squares, it still feels like it's getting shittier and shittier. And that's it's not rhetoric, it's a genuine question. Like how? Why?
What do you think, Desi?
I have this idea that I think the negative polarity, while it's fewer people that are doing it, they have such intentionality behind it. Like they want power so badly, or they want to have dominion over others so badly that even though there's only a few of them, they're able to sort of like kind of control the whole world because of essentially the law of squares is favoring that. And I think there's a lot of people kind of stuck in the middle where they're like, haven't chosen service to self or service to others. So they're kind of like, that's where the bulk of humanity is, but they're not shifting the scales that much. They're just kind of like, and then there are people who are service to others. But I think maybe the only thing that's lacking is that there's not as much of a coordination among the people that are service to others as there is among the people that are service to self. And it's weird because like among the service to self, there can only be so much coordination before they like backstab each other. So I think that if the people who are service to others, if they found a way to start coordinating better, it'd be like game over. Because the negative polarity, it's like they only form alliances in order to like seek power, but they're ready to backstab each other as soon as the right moment arises.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I do remember Ra saying that those service to self hierarchies are inherently unstable and subject to entropy, I believe was the word they used.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good point. What do you think, Michael? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I was reading a little bit further in Quo, and they were stating the way a negative power structure was set up like a pyramid, where all benefits rise to the top, to the people in charge. And if you look at our institutions, they're very much set up like a pyramid, whereas the generals would eat steak and drink champagne, and the lower members of the service have a hot dog and a beer. They don't receive the same benefits as the top. And a lot of our institutions are set up that way.
For
Military,
sure.
mafia, government, it's
For sure.
very much set up in a negative power structure.
Yeah, I think it would be fair to say our entire political, economic power structure is pretty much controlled by service to self entities. And yes, I think it is very obvious living in the United States that the system is rigged to benefit the wealthiest billionaires at the very top at pretty much everyone else's expense. I think that's fairly obvious to anyone who's paying attention. So I
And we
think
are
I'm also
trained.
reminded, I think Ross said in reference to the archetypical mind, there's archetypes where the entity is looking to the left, and the observation from Ra is that our reality is designed to appear negative. We always notice the negative things more than the positive. So I think part of the reason why the world seems so overtly negative is that it's designed to look that way. And I think that's part of the challenge of the third density test, to see if you can still, in spite of all that stuff, still choose to think of others rather than just saying fuck everybody else, I'm just looking out for myself and my family. I think that's part of the closed book test that we're given, to see if we can still make those choices on faith, I think, as you said, because don't necessarily know that's the way to go. I don't know, that's my thought on it. Anybody else have any other thoughts, takes on it?
Couldn't say it better than that.
Yeah, it's a challenge. Any other questions, Andy, before we wrap things up? Let's see, your mic is muted if you're speaking.
That's it for now. There's always more questions, right? But I love the Seattle group and these podcasts because you guys indulge me in my questions and you come up with more questions, and I enjoy the exploration. And when I ask questions, I'm not necessarily looking for a definitive answer. I'm just enjoying the exploration of like concepts and ideas, and it sort of uplifts me, and it's just like, oh wow, what if? And I guess a lot of us here are really into science fiction and the what ifs, and it brings wonder into existence. It makes us gaze at creation with a sense of amazement and wonder, which is really
I
fun.
think that's a
Thank you.
beautiful way to be. I know Quo has said many times that oftentimes the questions are more important than the answers. So just always having questions, I think, is a great way to live the law of one, for sure. Appreciate those in the podcast. Appreciate those in the Zoom sessions. And again, a great reminder of viewers that those who seek together may far more surely find. So if you live in the Austin, Texas region, then check out Desiree's group that she
Yeah,
facilitates, co-facilitates.
we meet in person bi-weekly, so yeah, if you're in Austin area, reach out.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're on the European continent, there is a Law of One Europe group that meets regularly too. So there's groups all over, and they're all different. Each one has its own vibe depending on who's there and who's facilitating. So check them out. Find one that you vibe with and that you feel at home. Otherwise, where do we go from here? What are some takeaway lessons we might have from our conversation today? I've only got 3 from your consideration, and one is every new member of a group doubles the power of the group without them. If you can remember that and apply that, that would be a great thing to understand about the law of squares. Also means that every time that you do something magical, the power doubles, which is a beautiful, magical thing in itself. And remember, Gaia Meditations are happening every day at 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. set your alarm. I have my phone alarm set every day to ring at 3:59 Pacific time so that I can spend a couple minutes. I don't usually spend more than 5-10 minutes in meditation, but I know that when I'm doing that, I'm in meditation at the same time as Jim McCarty and anybody else is, and the law of squares applies. So it doesn't matter whether you're doing it at exactly that time, but if you can, I like to think that it makes a difference. What do you think, Desi? Any other takeaway lessons of your own you'd like to add? Any closing thoughts?
No, just thank you so much for hosting this podcast, and I always enjoy coming on. And yeah, it's very comforting to know that the law of squares means that it doesn't take that many folks to move the needle. And so that's good news.
It's really good news. Yeah, always appreciate your being here and helping make that happen. Michael, anything want to add? Any takeaway lessons of your own or closing thoughts?
My only thought on these is it's the intention behind it, knowing that what you're doing is making a difference. But the meditation that you thought you might skip and you decided not to, that made a difference.
Beautiful. Or that piece of litter that you picked up off the ground. Indeed. Andy?
Oh, just another question to irritate everyone. What's the power for? What does the power do? Like, is it power as in energy, like electricity? Is it power as in, I don't know, like self-mastery? Is that a power? Like, power over other. What is this power that they're talking about? I don't know. It's not
You knew I was going to
someone
ask, what do
tell
you
me.
think?
Yeah, exactly. Someone tell me.
What do you think, Michael, Desi? Any thoughts on that?
It's hard to explain, right? To me, it's the light. The light gets a little brighter. That somebody who's questioning an answer might come to them easier. It's hard. It's hard for me to say. I don't know. What is the power?
Any thoughts, Desi?
Man, yeah, I think that power could look a lot of different ways. But yeah, I think maybe the power of love or the power of unity that's amplified when we come together. And um, yeah, I'm just hopeful that that's enough to get us to fourth density.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's lots of different ways to look at it. In terms of the calling of the group, I suppose the power would be like the volume of the call, the loudness of the call. The doing magical, I suppose it would be the magical power of what you're doing. Maybe the brightness of the light that you are channeling or creating or whatever. I think there's lots of different ways. The power of love, strength of love. Beautiful questions. Always appreciate it, Andy. Anything else to add on that before we have a little pop quiz?
I guess I'll add an inspirational thought that just came to me about power. I guess for me, the power is about the feeling, and it's the feeling of joy and faith, and that for me is more powerful than anything else. Yeah, I guess so. It's not very practical, like it's not going to pay my bills, but it's better than that. I don't know. I'm talking out my ass again. Sorry.
No, I think it's important to remember that our purpose for being here wasn't to do whatever the fuck we're doing to pay the bills. Our purpose for being here is to feel those emotions that you're talking about and express those emotions and to be able to share that with others and to lighten earth energies, I believe was the mission that we all came here to do. And that is largely through all that stuff that you just mentioned. So it's a good thing. Viewers, feel free to add your own thoughts. Otherwise, did want to let our viewers know that if you enjoyed this podcast episode, would encourage you to check out our episode on the present moment, where we took a look at some beautiful passages on that very profound, magical thing. Had a podcast episode on karma, on magic, on the dance and dancing with energies, dancing with the universe, and angels and archangels. All the help that is there, just waiting for you to ask for it. Check them out. Otherwise, yes, it is time for a pop quiz. Pop quiz, of course, is something we like to do at the end of our podcast just to kind of end our otherwise serious discussions on a light note and maybe look for law of one connections in pop culture. Since today's episode was about the law of squares and about how things can increase exponentially, we're going to do a pop quiz on memes. Memes, of course, can be a great distraction from your law of one studies. They are generally images that are taken out of context from pop culture, given a funny caption that makes them hilarious and makes them spread virally throughout the third density Earth population. Andy, are you familiar with memes?
Yes, I am. Looking forward to it.
Desi,
Yes.
you familiar with memes?
I love memes. So yes, very
Nice.
familiar.
And Michael?
Oh, absolutely. I've studied them for years.
You've been a student of memes. Nice. Today's quiz is going to be a little bit different. It's really mainly a quiz on your knowledge of pop culture. I'll be showing you a bunch of different memes that have been taken from different movies, TVs, and just asking you if you recognize the people or the source where it came from. So we're going to do it lightning round style, meaning I'm going to show you a bunch of different memes. I'm going to read you the caption on it, and then I'm going to ask you questions about it just to test your knowledge of pop culture literacy. 1 point to the first person who answers correctly each time and gets the little bell. I'm only going to give you a few seconds to answer before I go on to the next question. Whoever gets the most points gets the highest score. Do you get it? Any questions? All right. I am not keeping score. As always, the points don't matter. If you had fun, you won. Although I'm going to guess if you got more points than everybody else, you probably had more fun than everybody else. So let's try it. Are you ready? Your first meme. One does not simply graduate to fourth density. Name the movie where this came from.
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings is correct. Can you name the character in this movie?
Boromir. Sorry, I should give other people a chance.
Boromir, 2
I
points
wasn't
for
close
Andy.
at all.
Can you name the actor?
Sean Bean.
Sean Bean, 3 points for Andy. Your next one. So you believe God loves you unconditionally, but only under certain conditions. Name this movie character.
Willy Wonka.
I
Willy
know it's
Wonka.
yeah.
Name the actor.
Oh,
Come on.
Gene Wilder. Yeah, your next one. The law of one. Wait, what if I told you the law of one blinks neither at the light or the darkness, but is available for service to others and service to self? Panelists, name the movie.
The Matrix.
The Matrix.
Yeah.
Name the character.
Morpheus.
Morpheus. Name the actor.
Oh,
Lawrence Fishburne. You're your next one. You're doing great. You're a wanderer. Cool. So I get to return to my home density, right? Name the characters in the movie.
Anakin Skywalker and Padme.
Padme. Very good. Name the movie.
The shittiest Star Wars film ever.
Agreed. I'll give you 2 points for that one. Next. Me planning my incarnation. This is going to be so fun. My higher self. Name that actor.
Oh, Leonardo DiCaprio.
Leonardo DiCaprio. Name the movie.
Django Unchained.
Django
Yes.
Unchained. Well done. I hope you're keeping score. I'm not keeping score.
God.
Next one. I don't always have a spiritual awakening, but when I do, it's in a dream. What brand of beer is being advertised here?
Dos Equis.
Dos Equis. The world's most interesting man is making a comeback, apparently. They've got new ads. Your next one. When you realize being a wanderer doesn't make you better than anyone else. Name this character.
Snape. Severus
Snape.
Snape.
Name the actor.
Oh, I don't
Alan
know.
Rickman.
I don't
Name
know.
the movie.
Yeah. Anyway,
One of
my
the Harry Potters.
Some shitty Harry Potter movie. What are you going to say, Andy?
oh no, my husband looks like Alan Rickman, but with less hair, right? So, in my head, Alan Rickman is the actor who looks like my husband, Phil. Yeah, so like I don't
Nice.
have a name for him in my head.
Ah, such a great actor. So
I
many great
know.
movies. Loved him in Galaxy Quest, if you've ever seen that one.
Oh yeah.
Great movie. All right, next one. We still got a ways to go. How about this one? Doing the inner work or blaming others? Name the artist in this meme.
Very good.
Great, indeed. Well done. When you space out while driving and all of a sudden you reach your destination, have no clue how you made it there alive. Name this character.
It's Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda. What's his other name?
Gru?
Grogu,
Grogu.
I believe. Yeah, I'll give you half a
Grogu.
point on that one.
Oh,
And next one. When someone tries to emotionally manipulate you with their sad story, but you can see right through it. Yes, very sad. Anyway, name that character.
Loki.
Name the TV series.
Loki.
Name the actor.
Oh, Loki's no. Tom Hiddleston.
Tom Hiddleston.
Tom Hiddleston.
Yeah.
Well done. How about another Marvel meme? When I ask my mind to still itself in meditation, my mind. No, I don't think I will. Name that actor.
No idea.
Chris Evans. Name that character.
Captain America.
Captain America. Name that movie.
Avengers Endgame.
Nice. Avengers Endgame. Well done. How about this one? When you just switch from STS to STO, I don't like to feel good. I like to feel evil. Name that character.
That's Skeletor.
Skeletor. Well done. Crushing it, Michael. How about this one? Your next task is to do something in service to others without thinking about how much it will help you be more service to others. Name the TV series this came from.
Squid Game.
The game.
Squid Game.
Squid Game.
Nice. Name the character. I don't know either. Nobody gives a shit. How about this one? My kink is questioning the fabric of reality itself. Name the TV series.
X-Files.
X-Files. Name the actors.
David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson.
Oh, nice. Well done. That was an oldie. How about this one? My Catalyst and me. Name the two actors.
Jason Momoa and the Superman guy, right? Or no? What is his name?
Henry Cavill. Good. 1 out of 2 points. How about this one? What's really going to bake your noodle is choosing to be of service to others, really being of service to self. Name the character.
The Oracle.
The Oracle. What movie is this from?
The Matrix.
Yeah, this is from the first Matrix movie. Yeah, a great actress. Great role. How about this one? The way your spirit guide looks at you when you beg for help and guidance, but then ignore it completely. Name the actress.
Kathy Bates.
Kathy Bates. Nice. Or me, whenever I receive some guidance from my higher self. I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it. Name the character.
Kylo Ren.
Kylo Ren. Nice. Name the actor.
Something, right? Is that right? I don't know.
The movie is Star Wars The Force Awakens, and the actor is Adam Driver.
Okay.
How about this one? Name this character.
Cat in the Hat.
No, the one on the left. Just kidding. Cat in the Hat is correct. Great reincarnation and karma. How about this one? You get free will. You get free will. And you get free will. Everybody gets free will. Name that pop culture icon.
Oprah.
Oprah. Very good. How about this one? Me exercises free will. Orion Empire. And I took that personally. Name that athlete.
Is that Michael Jordan?
Michael Jordan. Good. How about this one? When I see 11:11 on the clock, name that comedian.
Kevin Hart.
Kevin Hart. Very good. Crushing it, Desi. How about this one? It's over, Anakin. All right, we'll call it a draw. Which Monty Python movie is being referenced here?
The Holy Grail.
Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Well done. How about this one? When you do something nice for somebody, but realize you just did it to help you graduate, name that pop culture icon. Chrissy Teigen. I guess maybe not as iconic as I thought. How about this one? I meditated today, so I guess you could say we're getting pretty serious. What movie is this from?
Napoleon Dynamite.
Napoleon Dynamite. Well done. And how about this one? I double dare you to say all is well one more time. Name that actor.
Same.
Don't know the actor. Samuel L. Jackson. What movie is this from?
Pulp Fiction?
Pulp Fiction. Yes, indeed. Nice. How about this one? You know, I'm something of an adept myself. You know what movie this came from?
First Spider-Man.
First Spider-Man. Nice. Can you name the actor?
William Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe. Wow, well done. I often have a hard time remembering his name, but he was great in that movie. How about this one? When you get the right answer on a pop quiz question.
That's me.
Yeah. Name the character.
Jean-Luc Picard.
Jean-Luc Picard. Name the actor. Patrick Stewart. Name the TV series.
Star Trek Next Generation.
Star Trek Next Gen. Well done, panelists. Well done. I was not keeping score on this. You're going to have to go back and rewatch the video, but did pretty good. I was expecting Andy to crush it, but all three of you, I think, did pretty darn good on this one.
That was so much fun. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mother.
I don't know what other Law of One podcast you're going to get to enjoy memes on, but this is the one, my friends. Panelists, thank you for being here. Thanks for all the great learned teachings, and thank you for all you've done and continue to do in service to others. To all our friends at L&L Research, thank you for all you've done, continue to do in service to others. To you who are watching this at some time in the near or possibly very distant future, thank you for all you've done and continue to do in service to others. We are sending you our love light, and we are receiving yours. Until next time, in love and light of the one infinite creator. Adonai, namaste.